at this time, obviously we have a lot to discuss. There's been a lot of changes, but as superintendent, I'm speaking for the entire school district when I say the health and well-being of our students and staff is the board and I's top priority. I'd also like to thank the hundreds of parents, guardians, teachers, and others who have opened your hearts to the district as public speakers and through many, many emails and phone calls. No matter what decisions the board makes in the best interest of our students and staff, I know many of you will not like all of our decisions, and some of you will actually suffer. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. I empathize with the parents who have implored us to reopen because they need to return to work and want to know what their children are and want to know that their children are in a safe space, learning among their teachers and peers. I also sympathize with the many teachers and families who are fearful to return to brick and mortar. I wrestle with the reality of knowing that the decisions we make will impact our most fragile children. While we will commit every resource available to supporting our children with disabilities, our exceptional students, and our English language learners, there will probably be some gaps. I want you to know that we hear you. We are educators because we love children, and we are committed to them, and our commitment will not waver. But these are very, very tough decisions and very tough choices that the board and I have to make. Even before schools closed on March 13th, we have been laser focused on determining, defining, and fine-tuning the best methods to educate our students while ensuring their health and well-being amid COVID-19. Hundreds of hours have been and will continue to be invested in this process. In addition to the Health Advisory Committee that I formed and the Return to School Task Force you will hear from shortly, I continue to collaborate with federal, state, and community leaders, many other superintendents on a daily basis, business and community leaders, employees, and have listened carefully to the concerns and suggestions from students, parents, teachers, and the dedicated school board, not to mention our spouses. And what exactly, how it should be, I can tell you this: we are all in this together. A process such as this demands tedious planning and discussion. It takes into account science, equity, emotional, and educational needs. Decisions must support a robust education plan for all children, including those with disabilities. Again, our English language learners and high-achieving students, and every child. The process must also conform to all of the legal and financial guidelines that are being provided to us hourly. It is not a process that we can rush. Realizing this, I set a timeline months ago with important goals and benchmarks to be achieved on specific dates. We have not deviated from this timeline because to do so would be to make rush decisions amid a plethora of external factors that we cannot control. The Return to School Task Force will present reopening options today that have been studied and discussed for over 5 weeks. While some of the options may no longer be available because of the deteriorating conditions in our county, it is important to me that the board and the public see the planning process in its entirety. When you take time laying out and crafting plans and options, your information is thorough and thoughtful. What the school board and public will see today is a summary of guidance that should be used when making final reopening decisions, along with considerations related to social distancing and equity. The team will also share potential risks associated with each reopening option, as well as suggestions on how the district can potentially mitigate these risks. The information you will hear is based on situation, viability, practicality, feasibility, and sound logic, not information that is hurried and based on emotions during an ever-changing pandemic. As I mentioned in previous meetings, the next very important date on our timeline is 1 week from today, July 15th. That's when I will present my reopening recommendations to the board, and the board will adopt final reopening decisions. Let me be clear. I have mentioned this before, and it's important to repeat. None of the options you will hear today involve returning to school campuses full-time in the traditional sense as in the manner in which we left schools. What I mean by this, it is not an option in Palm Beach County, where COVID-19 impact remains at phase 1. To mirror the reopening of school plans and processes that have occurred in years past. Another critical date in the timeline that we just received on Monday is July 31st. That is the date on which the district's reopening plans must be submitted to the Florida Department of Education. You recall that the DOE issued an emergency order on Monday regarding the reopening of schools in Florida. It should be noted that the executive order from the Florida Department of Education provides the district with flexibility to begin the 2020-2021 school year in accordance with recommendations from health officials that are based on the status of COVID-19 in Palm Beach County, and without the fear of losing FTE funding as we make decisions based on keeping our students and staff safe during this pandemic. It is also important to share that the district's Health Advisory Committee, which includes the director of our local health department and other health professionals and community leaders, stated emphatically on Monday that based on the current number of COVID cases in Palm Beach County, members could not recommend in-person instruction at this time. At my request, health officials are currently putting recommendations and guidance in writing. I will share that written documentation with the board and the Florida Department of Education for their review. Over the next week, as we continue to gauge the spread of COVID-19 in Palm Beach County, we will continue discussions with health officials. We will review the important feedback from board members today. We will continue to work with the staff, and we will do this while following the new guidance from the Florida Department of Education. And finally, as I stated at the beginning of my comments, the district remains committed to prioritizing the health, safety, and well-being of students and staff as final details concerning reopening plans become more clear. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Bass for our call-ins, and then we will turn it over to Larry Clausen for the presentation.